Good morning, Don. Good morning, Don. You're on mute. Your head's cut off and you're on mute. There you go. At least I can hear you now. There, that's better. I'd rather see all of your head than just part of it. I'm going to go get my coffee, but I knew you'd be first on, so I wanted to let you in the room.
Thank you.
Come on, Phoebe, you gotta get out of my chair.
I heard it gurgling.
Yeah, and now when I came back, the cat's in my chair. There she goes. There have been some great photos of pelicans on Facebook.
Yep.
I don't know if this is a banner year for them or what.
we've been camping up at Skytook Lake this week, and
Sorry.
we've been camping at Skytook
Oh,
Lake
okay.
this week.
Yeah,
Not a pelican one,
really?
and it's just unique. Grant is just unique.
Well, there's so many cove areas at Grand Lake that they can congregate in. Okay, my banner reads backwards. I've got to fix that. There, that's better. I think. Does it read right now? Yeah.
Yeah, I see. Holger.
It's kind of off whack there. Let me fix it. There we go. Well, it's not completely straight, but it'll do.
Anyway, we came home early because of Gerald Harp's death.
Oh, yeah.
Gonna go
Sorry to
get ready. Going to Springdale tomorrow for that funeral.
We would go over to Grove periodically to get stuff when we're at the lake, and I always enjoyed going to that little grocery store. It was always so clean and neat, and just a nice little store.
I don't know whether you know this or not, but just before Gerald became governor 15 years ago, he sold his store to all of his employees.
I knew that, yeah.
And I just read in the obituary yesterday that his key people, he gave them 10% of the business.
Wow.
I don't know how many of them there were that were key, but I mean, I don't know how many stores he had, but the real estate value was probably more than the value of the stores.
Yeah. Morning, Laura.
Hello, how are y'all?
Good. How are you doing?
Very good.
Hey, Laura, what do your students call you?
Some people call me Dr. Laura. They think that's kind of cute.
Do you like that?
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of hers, but it's not a problem, really, you know. Dr. G sometimes. Some people even go way back. I think they've asked their parents and they call me Professor Garrett, which I find very weird, but whatever works.
Whatever. I had an unusual encounter with my allergy doctor this week. After the official visit was over, I asked him what about this COVID situation, and he was quick to respond with his analysis. He said, somebody has got to realize that children are asymptomatic and they're carrying this disease everywhere. Mm-hmm. And nobody's really addressing that. He was all in favor of the Tulsa school systems continuing to shut down because who knows who's got it.
Right.
If they haven't been tested and they're not checking children particularly.
Well, you know, not most, I'd say 30% of my students are also high school students. So not only are they bringing college virus, but high school virus, which in my opinion is much more statistically relevant.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows? I don't know. I just keep waiting for the bounce back to hit us because so far these past 2 weeks, I haven't had a student have COVID, which is unusual. since the semester started, I had one a week.
Wow.
Our granddaughter is part of the care staff at Oral Roberts' retirement village,
Mhm.
and she was diagnosed yesterday,
Uh,
and they send her home for 14 days, and her mom and dad, they don't have it, and they live in the same house. They
right.
got tested immediately, but who's got it
Yeah.
unless
Hard to
you're
say.
unless you're tested.
Right. Well, I'm fascinated with the blood type stuff that's coming out. I don't know if you've been reading that.
No, I
It's
haven't.
not, yeah,
Yeah.
it's not huge, but there's some correlation between blood type and at least the diagnosis. And I'm O negative, which is the thing. If you're O, they seem to have less likelihood of getting COVID than those who don't.
They came out with that originally and said that that would make a difference. And then they said, no, that's not right. And now they've come back again to say, yeah, it is right.
Yeah. So much stuff out there. It's going to be years probably before we know the real truth of it all, I think.
Yeah. Hey, Mike Bibby.
Laura, are you aware that your organization, whatever name you put with it, was originally put together by Rotary people here in Tulsa?
Oh, Tulsa Community College?
No, Tulsa Community College, Tulsa Junior College, whatever you want to call it. It was originally organized by Dr. Van Trees, who was a great proponent of Rotary and a member of the Southside Club here. He's not a member anymore, and his boss skips my mind, but he was a member of the Tulsa Club, and they had a great impact on this community when they came here
Wow.
from Dallas and Washington State.
I did not know that.
It is really a great Rotary legacy to think that those two guys, and Bob Malott, who was a member of this club. Bob Malott was the IT guy, and he inherited a bunch of computer equipment from American Airlines and put it to work and started calculating and punching cards, and everybody was up and running.
Wow, that's very neat. I did not know.
Well, punch cards, that brings back memories from my early days at IBM.
Mm.
What time is it, Carolyn?
You're on mute, Carolyn.
It's about
There you go.
10 till 7. I can see Barbara's clock.
Oh, you're home.
Yes, I'm in Tulsa. And you know what? I got up early and came in here and sat down at 6 a.m. and tried to get on. Old habits die hard.
Morning, Linda.
Good morning, everybody.
Hey, Andy.
Hello, awesome Andy.
Hi, Andy.
Morning, Phil Armstrong. How cool is this?
Good morning, Phil. Welcome.
Morning, Andy. Good morning, everyone.
Why'd you wake up so early, Carolyn?
Well, I set my alarm for when I've been getting up, all summer for Rotary in New Mexico.
And you're not in New Mexico.
No, I'm home.
Good.
Morning, Janet.
Hi, Steve.
Okay.
Hi, Janet.
Hey, everybody. Sorry, my computer was on mute.
Hey, Janet, I got a question. If somebody has COVID and they're in the hospital and they haven't been intubated, but they're on 10% oxygen, they were on 3 and now they've increased it to 10, is that bad? You're on mute.
That's bad. If they're requiring more oxygen, then they'll probably end up getting moved to ICU. Are they in ICU yet?
Not yet. They're at St. Francis South. He's not in ICU yet.
They're probably, if they can't get the oxygen requirements down, they may move them to ICU, try BiPAP, and if that doesn't work, then try to put them on a vent.
Do you know why they haven't been using the vent as frequently as they did before? Seems like they're not. I don't know.
Not as many people are requiring it. They're able to turn around before requiring the vent. That's not something we're going to jump to immediately.
Good, good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Tamara.
Hey, good morning, Don.
Morning, Tamara.
Morning, Barbara.
I used my Pampered Chef pan this morning.
Wow, that's wonderful.
I use mine all the time.
I'm so glad.
Love it. My non-stick. It's wonderful.
And Tamara, after you sent me that video, I am using that little device almost every week.
Good, good. Hey, that's what we're supposed to do. Help you get in and out of the kitchen easy.
I sent Tamara a picture of a device I bought from her. I didn't know what to do with it. So she sent me a video that showed me how to use it, and I have loved it ever since.
Okay, so what device was it?
Give me a minute, I'll go get it. I can't, it's a little grater thingy. Can you
It's called
tell
the
me?
veggie strip maker.
Okay. It's a little white thing. You can put the edge on the side of a bowl and you just strip your vegetables. I have made cauliflower rice like it's going out of style.
Well, it's healthy too.
Oh yeah.
So it also shreds zucchini, so you can use zucchini like spaghetti.
Yep.
Yep.
I love that.
Well,
In fact, I like that better than regular pasta noodles.
Oh, it is better. But I use her other thing I bought from her that you put the thing on there and wind it down and it does spirals or strips or the spaghetti. That I use all the time also.
Yeah. The spiralizer. That's fun.
Yes, it is a lot of fun.
You may get some more orders, Tamara.
I hope so.
Well, you know, they're great Christmas gifts too. So
They are.
that's really popular this year because everybody's cooking so much more at home.
Well, that said, I think that Tamara ought to do a cooking presentation or a show for a sunrise meeting.
I think a virtual one would be nice. That
I
would
do Zoom cooking shows. So
Be fun.
we would just move me to the kitchen. So
Well, but you got to have home delivery too, Tamara.
yeah, it's kind of not quite as fun when you can't taste the food or smell it.
Yeah, that's the most fun of the parties.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we could think subliminally.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you have to jump on my business page. I've been doing bread is the theme of October. So I've been doing all kinds of bread, gluten-free and regular and yeast and non-yeast and all kinds of stuff.
Hey, Ellie.
Morning.
How many mistakes in the sunriser today?
Well, I stopped looking for mistakes when I found one.
But don't do that because there are a few.
I'm gonna
don't do that because I turned in a couple, but they weren't the correct mistake.
You've
I'm
already
gonna-
turned them in?
I'm gonna
Lou?
stay off. I'm gonna stay off the chat so that somebody else can win.
They have to be in the chat room.
Yeah.
Good morning, guest speaker.
Morning.
Hey, good morning.
Morning to all my fellow Rotarians.
Welcome.
Morning, Bob.
Good morning. Unmuted.
That's
Hi,
better.
Bob.
All right.
My dog is unmuted too. No, wait a minute. I got that wrong. Morning, Jesse.
Really?
Hi, Jesse.
Hi, Laura.
Hey, Laura, Jesse.
Hi, Bob.
Hey, Jim.
Steve, we're really enjoying the cleverness of your errors.
Thank you. You mean, hopefully just the intentional ones.
Well, they're clever. I like what you're doing.
He's very creative.
Okay.
I think so.
Where's Barney?
Steve, what was your recent trip on with your trailer and your wife?
We haven't been anywhere in a few weeks. We're going back over to Sequoia next weekend. Just easy places right now.
You ever been to Sequoia's mission, where his printing press is?
I have, but I don't remember it.
It's, well, it's off-site, Steve. Dwight Mission, I believe it's called, down, kind of towards South, well, not Salisal, but in that general area.
I'll have to look it up.
It's a private mission, but on the, and I say private, I think it's church owned, but there's a cabin with his printing press in it.
Well, we were disappointed by our trip to Robbers Cave because they've actually taken the cave off of the trails because people were doing too much damage to it. Now you have to know where it is and bushwhack to get to it.
Oh.
Have you ever been to Dripping Springs?
Yes, beautiful place.
When we still had our motorhome, we'd go down there during the weeks quite often. It's nice and quiet and an easy place to get in and out of. And
That's a great day trip, isn't it?
Hey, I've been to all the state parks this year.
yeah, we've seen your initials several places where you scratched them.
Barely.
Looks like.
How's everybody?
Hi, Stan.
Hi,
Great.
Jim. Hey, Don. You've been following me.
Okay, my clock is chiming. And I was waiting for Martha to get on because she's our ROD today.
There's Martha.
So, Martha, let me share my screen here. Okay. And there we have Miss Martha, who is our ROD. So Martha, if you are unmuted, would you go ahead and do the prayer and the pledge?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning,
And
everybody.
a little louder.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me
Morning.
now? All right. Let us pray. Creator and sustainer of all that is or will ever be, accept our thanks for this day and all of its blessings. We ask that you guide and direct our club, its leaders, and our actions. Grant that each of us may feel our responsibility to Rotary, to our community, to our country, and indeed to all countries and peoples. Bless our fellowship today, and we ask that you help us in all the services that we must render. Amen. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Martha. Now we'll go to Miss Megan, who is our Sergeant at Arms.
Morning, everybody. How's everybody doing this morning?
Good.
Good. Awesome. All right. So I think the first thing we have, are there any guests in the Zoom room? I know we have our speaker, and we'll be introducing him soon. Anybody else? I'm looking. Don't see anybody, I think. All right. Well, if anybody comes on, let me know. Or if anybody's on a phone that's a guest, please speak up. All right. Well, are there any birthdays or anniversaries?
Yeah, this is Tim. Today is my middle daughter's 23rd birthday. So today's the actual day, so it's kind of exciting.
That's awesome. All right. Don.
84. I'll be sending a check.
Wow.
I'll be sending a check to you, Mike.
Thought you were more like 70.
Thank you.
You don't even look near 84. That's amazing.
Thank
awesome.
Amazing guy.
You're running
Anybody
behind
else?
3 years, Don.
Yeah, I know. It's that farmer's life that'll do it for you.
You got it.
Others? Well, it's today is the day. Actually, it's my husband and my 20th anniversary. So,
woo!
Very exciting. I know, 20 years. So, yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh. Anybody else?
Well, this is I guess a strange buck. Scott signed up for his first marathon ever. It's supposed to be December 6th. He kept telling me it was a weekend I was working. I looked at my schedule and gently reminded him that's the weekend we'll be in Utah. He's canceled it. He's gonna do one in April.
There you go. There you go. Good. All right. Well, any other happy strange bucks?
I'll do happy.
Yes, Bill Lawson.
Well, I'm in South Carolina. My son's little mini ranch here. They have some horses, and Greta and I drove out. We got in late last night, and we're going to be here. I guess we're going to leave on Sunday, but Saturday, Friday and Saturday, my son and I get to go quail hunting in Georgia, so we're going to enjoy that.
Nice.
So, at any rate, Mike Bibby, you'll have to take a couple of dollars out of my contribution that you have there for a pot of gold and put it in Happy Bucks.
I can do that.
I'll do a happy buck.
All right, Barbara.
My oldest granddaughter is down here for a week from Denver. She actually took some vacation, drove down, and she'll be here for a few days, and we're going to go up to the lake and spend a few days. So it's good to spend some time with her.
Nice. Very good. Yes, Martha.
Yes, this last weekend, the Tulsa Chorale, which is the professional choir that I sing in, did a virtual presentation at the Admiral Twin. And this was unique for us because we all wore masks and were recorded with masks on, but the microphones really picked us up, and it was beautiful. And it was followed by a performance by a local band who played about 15 different Beatles songs, and then followed that with Dr. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band movie, which is really bizarre. I had never seen it before. And the reason that this was done is because it's the anniversary of Beethoven and it's the anniversary of the Beatles this year. I can't remember what years, but they were like 50 and 100 or something like that. And it was well attended and everybody had a great time. It's really fun.
Good. Yeah, the Admiral Twin is doing well, huh?
Yes. Well, it's bizarre to watch yourself sing. We've never done that before.
Yeah, that would be very cool. All right. Stan Grog, I see your hand up.
Sure. I'm not as excited as Bill Lawson. I'm going to Bowl Shoals today to see some friends that moved up to Michigan, maybe do a day of fishing, and that'll be a night of camping. That'll be fun.
Nice. Very fun. Is it cold up there?
Oh, it's supposed to be in the 80s today.
Oh, wow.
As it is
There
here.
you go.
But,
As it is here, yeah.
Mike, I'll get you a
Crazy.
check one of these days.
All right. Don Wasson, I see your hand up.
If you all have ever done any shade tree mechanicking, I have been working. I've been working on my 52 model tractor for almost a year, and after giving up on the project, I hired somebody to clean out the carburetor, and it runs beautifully. And that happened yesterday, and I got to mow the grass.
But that is awesome.
Is
Okay.
that really a happy buck?
Probably because the grass isn't going to grow anymore now. That's what I'd be excited about. But very cool, Don. All right. Any other happy bucks?
I have a happy buck.
Yes.
It was my lucky day. I was walking into my office this morning and I found a $5 bill. So I will donate that to Rotary.
Awesome. Thank you. Great. Anybody else?
Sure, this is Tim again. I have a happy
Okay.
buck. So this morning when I was leaving Muskogee, it was pea soup fog. So my happy buck is that it was only about a third of my trip into Tulsa this morning that it was so foggy.
Oh, pea soup fog. Ooh. Jim Blackburn.
Hey, Don, talking about shade tree mechanics. Once in my past, I took care of a car, maintained it for a bootlegger, running whiskey into Oklahoma.
Oh, Carolyn McGay.
Well, first of all, I wanted to let Jim know that my grandfather was a bootlegger. So, so that's just a little tidbit. But the other thing I wanted to say is that this weekend and last weekend, the aquarium has been having a Halloween, and you can bring children, you know, from 6 to 8:30 to the aquarium in costume, and they can collect candy. And I've talked to one of the volunteers, and she assures me that the candy is good. We only have small candy bars, so that's going to be cool. And this weekend, I'm babysitting with 2 of my grandchildren, and I bought tickets last night to take them. I'm going to surprise them. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. And I hear the octopus is really cool, so I can't wait to see that because I haven't seen it yet. But the friend that I've been talking to over at the aquarium scuba dives and cleans one of the tanks, and her husband cleans a different tank. So, and they're both in their mid-70s, and they're just wonderful scuba divers. They're certified and everything. They traveled all over the world. And this is a really big deal for them to go to the aquarium every week and clean the tanks. It sounds gross to me, but I think they really like it.
Wow. Well, have a great time. That's fun. Fun. All right. Okay. Am I missing anybody? All right. Joke of the day. Today's topic is dogs, because I have 2 dogs and they're crazy and they drive me crazy, but I love them. Okay. So it was the end of the day when a policeman parked the police van in front of the station. As he gathered his equipment, his canine and his canine partner Jake was barking back in the back seat. He saw a little boy staring in at him. The little boy looked at him kind of strange and said, "Is that your dog back there?" he asked. The police officer said, "Well, sure it is." And the kid kind of looked at him and replied, puzzled, and he said, "What did he do?" I'd like to put my dogs in jail sometime.
Okay. That takes a minute to think about, but that was a good one.
Yes.
Okay, back to our stuff. Let's see, is this the right? Yeah. Okay, last week, Ellie won on the Find the Error in the fundraiser, and apparently there may be a couple more this week, but the winner this week is Carolyn, because she found, instead of closed-toed, T-O-E-D, Steve slipped in closed-toed, T-O-A-D, shoes. So Carolyn will get the $5 Starbucks gift card. It'll be in the mail, Carolyn. Okay, now next week, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to have an off-site meeting. We're not going to have a 7 o'clock Zoom meeting. We're going to meet, those who want to, are going to meet at 9 o'clock out at the Tulsa Glassblowing School. They have recently moved from downtown. They were downtown in the Ready Arts District, and they're now out at what was McClure Park. It's on 7th Street between Sheridan and Memorial. It's a nice, large facility. The room where they have all the firing going on is huge, and they have, you know, distance seating. And I need to know, we're not going to do a Zoom on that. It'll just be an in-person meeting for those who can come. But I do need to know who is going to come. I need to know how many, because Martha has graciously offered to bring coffee and I think donuts for that meeting. So we'll need to know numbers of people, so you can email me, text me, just let me know. The other thing is, they do require, this is really more for people doing the work, but they require it for everybody. They do require you to fill out a waiver, and this is what it looks like. And the link to that waiver was in the fundraiser this week. So just click on it and you'll go to their website and you just fill it out and say, you know, that you'll behave yourself and they're not responsible for any injuries. So I really hope that we can all get a chance to get together and see each other in person, and we'll be distanced, we'll be wearing masks, and it's a great facility, and it's really fun to watch them create the glass products that they do. And I believe they'll also be talking about the program that they have in place for veterans. So I hope all you veterans can come too. This is news from, now that we have Cole in the district administrator's job, she sends out lots of news. District Governor Jay Craig would like for clubs to nominate people who want to be considered to be district governor in 2023 and 2024, which is a few years off, but they get them lined up pretty far in advance. And the other thing is, the district governor-elect, they're looking for more assistant governors. They're down to, I think, 4 this year, because four of them are going to be retiring from that job or phasing out. I'm not sure exactly which, but if you're interested, if you've been a past president, a past assistant governor, there's more information on DACDB on the district website, or just get in touch with Cole for that. Okay, in Polio Day, it would be nice if we end it. We're this close. Now, you remember in our in-person meetings, we had a jar, maybe we had 2 jars, and they went around both sides of the room and collected your loose change, your loose dollars, whatever. Well, since we've been in COVID, we have not been able to distribute that jar. So what I'm asking everybody to do is, let's collect up what we think we might have given over the last 18 weeks or so, and let's send a check to the foundation, to Mike Bibby, for $20.20 for 2020. And I'll send a check today before I leave town for the lake, and let's try and get that polio money back up there where it should be, because we haven't been able to collect any, you know, for the last times that we've been in COVID. And that's Mike Bibby's address down there. If you don't see it on the site here, you can also go to DACDB and get his address, or go to the roster that Kit sends out.
I hate to tell you this, but that's incorrect.
What is?
It's 188th, not 108th.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's all right. We got to get it
There.
right.
Now it's correct.
No, it's wrong.
Who do we make the check out to?
Make the check out to Sunrise Foundation. And you just send it directly. The reason I put Mike Bibby's address in there, it makes it so he doesn't have to go into the Rotary Foundation office to pick up the mail.
Barbara?
Yes.
This is Bill Lawson. Jay Craig also wants every club to have as a club goal. I didn't think we chose that, a foundation goal.
We did not have one.
I know. Well, he just reiterated that on a meeting yesterday, that he wanted everyone to that he wanted each club to have a foundation goal, and there's not all that many clubs that have them right now. So I think that I didn't recall that, so that information was pretty slow in getting out. But I wanted to let you know that's another goal that maybe we should go add.
Okay, well, I'll go out and look at the goals. I don't recall that even being one of the goals you could choose. There was a list of like 20 and you were supposed to choose 13.
I remember. Anyway, that came out. Whether it's it, and that's where apparently there must be one, because that's where he's checking.
Okay, I'll go check it out. Thank you. Okay, Mike Bibby.
I'm here.
It's time for me to let you have the screen, and we
Okay,
can now dial for dollars.
It's telling me that host is disable participant screen sharing.
Oh, wait. I didn't disable. I just never enabled it. Okay, you got it now.
All right. All right, here's the numbers. And I've got the pot right here in my hand, if you can see me. We've got 17 coupons in here today. And I'm drawing one now. And the name on it is Tim Holder. Tim, are you still on the call?
Yes, sir, I am.
Can you see the screen?
I do. Let's go with lucky 11.
You want to go with 11. All right. Let me unshare. How do we do that there?
Okay, and yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if you can see this, but I'm digging through here. Here is 11. And I'll hold it up for everyone to see. And I think that's a 8 of spades. Sorry, Tim.
Well, thank you.
And you don't even get $5 for your consolation prize, but maybe you can send that to the foundation.
Actually, we're not doing consolation prizes.
I know. Kind of hard to do it on Zoom.
But the pot was up to $340 today. So get your money in, folks, and you can. There's only 13 numbers left.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
Barbara, I did have an announcement too.
Yes, Linda.
I
Go ahead.
wanted to let you all know November is Rotary International Foundation Month. And so in honor of that, this year we're going to have a matching drive. And everyone who is working on a Paul Harris Fellow, I had hoped to have our presentation before November, but it's been put off until January. But I'm sure you all have heard of the Paul Harris Fellow. And if you're working on one, either the club or a fellow member will match whatever donation you need to make up, well, any donation that you make in the month of November, from November 1st to the 30th. The club or another member will match it with their recognition points, and you can get your Paul Harris Fellow. So if you will, if you have questions about it, you can go to My Rotary and read all you need to know about Paul Harris. The club will donate up to $500. Anything that you need to make up that first Paul Harris or another Paul Harris if you're working on multiple Paul Harris. And after that, you will get your recognition points to begin. And major donors can also participate in this by donating some of your points to some of your fellow members. So I will be putting out an email to everyone, a blast, limited time offer. And hopefully we'll get out an email to each of you letting you know how many dollars you have toward a Paul Harris and how many you need and how many recognition points you have if you're already a major donor. So watch for those.
Great, thank you. That's a super opportunity. I think that's maybe how I got my first Paul Harris, was it was matching way back
Yeah,
many, many years ago. So
I do too. And it's also a good Christmas present for those grandkids. They may
great.
not realize it now, but they might later.
Thank you, Linda. And I look forward to getting the email because I don't know where I stand on another one. So thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, back to my charts, which you see all the time. And we're down a little bit on the death rate, I guess. But, you know, we keep having on the weekends, they don't report the numbers. Then they come back in on Monday and they spike back up. But we had a really big spike about a week ago, but it's down a little bit. I don't have numbers for yesterday. But as long as the numbers look like that, we're not doing anything at the Marriott. So next we have Martha Lowe, who is our Rotarian of the Day, who will talk a little bit about herself. And then she's going to introduce Phil Armstrong. And we're really looking forward to his presentation. A lot of the Rotary clubs have been calling Phil, and he's been doing a lot of Zoom meetings on what he's doing with the Greenwood Rising History Center. So I'm anxious to hear what Phil has to say. So Martha, take it away. And go off mute, Martha.
All right. I don't know how many of you have ever heard of the Discovery Land outdoor dramas, but they used to put on Oklahoma, and before they did that, they put on dust on her petticoats, which I think when I started working for Discovery Land, which was when I was 24 years old and cute and bouncy and lots of energy, was the main show that they were putting on. And I got that position, I think, basically because I was cute and bouncy, but I was glad that I did a good job. I was new in Tulsa, and my job was to go around and meet all of the TV and radio people in Tulsa, all the newspaper people, do all of the ads, do all of the billboards, ads on buses. I went on the Betty Boyd talk show, if any of you remember Betty Boyd. And she and I became very good friends. So it got to the point where I would bring different dancers and stuff to perform on the show. And she'd end up putting me up there saying, come on, Martha, come and talk to me. So we would just sit and talk, which was just crazy. Wonderful woman. And you know, every single solitary person that I met in the media field could not have been more helpful than they were to a 24-year-old who came from Chicago, was very shy, comes to Oklahoma, and then all of a sudden has to be in the media world. And I am so thankful for those years that I had. I only had 2 years there, but I loved every minute of it. And that's just something I'd like to share with you. The other thing is Philip Keith Armstrong. I'll tell you, I read his bio and I just can hardly wait to hear from this gentleman. He is a native of Ohio and has been in Tulsa for more than 20 years. He holds a bachelor's in mass communications from Central State University in Wilberforce, Ohio, and a master's degree in public administration from the University of Akron. Phil has a varied background working in the corporate sector and as an entrepreneur in the restaurant business. Quite a diverse gentleman. In 2019, he was hired by the Tulsa Community Foundation as project manager or director for the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre Centennial Commission. Phil has been actively engaged in the community by serving on several nonprofit boards, most notably Bartham School of Music, Community Service Council, my baby that I loved working for, Reading Partners of Tulsa, and the Greenwood Cultural Center. He's a Leadership Tulsa graduate and a member of the Rotary Club of Tulsa. A talented singer. Okay, Phil, I'm going to be recruiting you for the Tulsa Chorale. Phil enjoys singing for several events and organizations around Tulsa most notably singing the national anthem for the Tulsa Regional Chamber annual meetings, Tulsa Drillers, and Tulsa Roughnecks home games. Please warmly welcome Bill Armstrong.
Thank you, Martha, and thank you to the Sunrise Rotary Club for having me and inviting me to speak. I have been a member of Rotary downtown Tulsa since 2014. Hannibal B. Johnson was my mentor. Actually, I had three that shared in bringing me into the club. Hannibal B. Johnson, Reverend Joseph Bias, and Paula Wood, who all three are very, very good friends of mine. And so it's been an interesting journey, and just thankful to be able to serve the community in the many various ways that Rotary has been doing and for many years here in Tulsa. So anyhow, so glad that we have some commonality with Rotary and with service. And just again, it's an honor when ever I get asked to speak, whether it's 2 or 3 people from a company or organization, or for a group of Rotary members, or even for a school or a university. Anytime they have the opportunity to share this rich and diverse history, change perspectives and minds of what people thought this may have been or what this commission's about, and ultimately uniting and bringing our community together around this history is a extreme desire and goal of mine. So I want to start off by just thanking again Martha for a wonderful introduction. Mr. Bob Archibald is the one that reached out and contacted me last month and asked me about speaking. And to President Barbara, again, thank you for making some time available. And by the way, you guys have already helped me out. I read through your fundraiser, and I went home last night to give one of my wife and I were a blended family. We have 4 beautiful children. 3 now are in college. We have a senior in Jenks, and one of our college students, I said, hey, I got this great joke. As I was cooking, last night was Taco Tuesday night, and it was my turn to cook. So as I'm standing at the stove, I turned around and I said, a woman was engaged to a boyfriend with a wooden leg, but she broke it off. And it took a while for, of course, it to set in. And I told her, I said, well, I got that off of a fundraiser, a Rotary Club. It's on your bottom, your last column under huh. And I thought that was quite funny, but it took a while for my children to kind of scratch their head and say, now, why was that so funny? So anyhow, but again, thank you for this opportunity. The 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre Centennial Commission was formed in 2015. And for a bit of perspective, this is actually, for those who do not know, and for those who are followers of history in Tulsa, you will know or find out that this is the 2nd statewide commission that was formed around this information. Also, before I get into this, I want to say a special hello to my friend and chorus brother, Andy Leitner. I get invited to sing down at the First United Methodist Church, and I've been doing that now for the last 10 years and get to join them for their annual Christmas concert. Annie, I won't be at rehearsal tonight, but we normally are rehearsing on Wednesday nights for the annual Christmas concert. And Andy and I, the First United Methodist Church has kind of become like a second church home for me and my family. But I wanted to say that to him while I was getting started in this presentation. But in 1997, the first commission was formed, and that commission was tasked with specifically looking at the financial destructive damages and accounting for the actual number of deaths and research and history on what it was called and referred to then the 1921 Tulsa Race Riot that was formed by or led by State Representative Don Ross and State Senator Maxine Horner. It was a bipartisan statewide commission. Bob Blackburn, who's retiring from the Oklahoma Historical Society, he led that commission and did a lot of research with that. It is an excellent, excellent report, and it's available online if you ever wanted to go look it up and read through it. It's where they actually researched how many damages, how many businesses were destroyed, the listing of those businesses, the amount of money, It's where they actually evaluated and said about $2.7 million in damages in 1921 dollars. That estimate now conservatively over the value of money over time is anywhere from 25 to $30 million. And that's very conservative estimates for current valuation of money. And they looked at the number of deaths to offset the false reporting by the Tulsa Tribune at that time that said only 33 people died. They confirmed in that report that at least 100 to 300 persons were murdered during that vicious time in 1921. And all that's in that report. So 2015 comes along, and State Senator Kevin Matthews, at the time he was the only African-American serving in the State House, began hearing a lot of conversation about the 25th anniversary of the Murrah Federal Building bombing. And a lot of the conversation around that was, how shall we commemorate 25 years? And let's put together resources, and let's really showcase, what has happened over the last 25 years for one of the worst incidents of domestic terrorism. Well, Senator Matthews began then, kind of having a conversation. You do realize that the worst case of domestic terrorism, eyewitness accounts of Americans dropping bombs and incendiary devices on their fellow Americans happened right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, almost 100 years ago. And again, that's when the eyebrows go up and you get more conversation. And so the commission really was birthed out of that. What we as a city, as a state, and really as a nation would be able to show. At that point, we're 6 years away. And he said, 100 years is coming upon us. What will we be able to show for what has transpired over 100 years since that terrible tragedy? And again, the second commission is formed. It is interesting to note that when he reached across the aisle, the lead senator that has been a friend of Senator Matthews, a friend of the commission, and has become really a personal friend of mine, is U.S. Senator James Lankford. We could not have done this on our own. This had to be a collaborative effort. And Senator James Lankford has proven himself time and time again as an Oklahoma. And I use this language with intentionality. A Black Democrat and a white Republican put their ideological differences aside and say, as Oklahomans, we need to acknowledge this, we need to learn from it, we need to embrace it, and we need to move forward racial healing, racial harmony, and reconciliation. And he has, again, proven that himself with that 3 different addresses he's given from the Senate floor so that it can be recorded. And he talks extensively about this history, about the education of Greenwood. He's actually even hosted tours in the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. through the Tulsa Race Riot Room. And he has been a strong advocate. Their relationship and their friendship has been the model for the Centennial Commission, and everything that we do surrounds this thought of bringing people together. So with that premise, I'll go into a small slide presentation, and I think I've got access to share my screen. And give me just a moment here so I can, there we go. So if you see on your screen Greenwood Rising, give me a thumbs up. Excellent, thank you. So the name of the museum, the History Center, is Greenwood Rising, the Legacy of Black Wall Street. Tulsa's historic Greenwood district reflects the power of the human spirit generally and the vision, determination, and resilience. That key word, I want you to remember that permeates throughout everything that we do, the resilience of its oppressed and marginalized Black citizens specifically. And so we are building an 11,000 square foot facility called Greenwood Rising. It will be at the corner of Greenwood and Archer Avenue. Greenwood and Archer historically was the gateway to what was Black Wall Street. That term, Black Wall Street, was coined in 1905 by Booker T. Washington when he visited Oklahoma and visited and heard about all of these prospering wonderful all-Black towns that were the epicenter of economic and entrepreneurial expertise, and there were all Black-owned businesses, Black-owned homes. Taft, Oklahoma, Redbud, Langston, Boley, and the list goes on and on. And when he visited all these towns and came to Greenwood, he said, "This all reminds me of a Negro Wall Street." And that was where that term came from. He said it was a Negro Wall Street when he came to Oklahoma. In the 60s and 70s, that term again was changed to Black Wall Street, but Booker T. Washington is the first to coin that phrase. Here are more renderings of this beautiful building. The local architects Seltzer Schaefer designed this, and museum design experts, local projects based out of New York City are the museum design exhibit experts that we've been working with. They designed the 9/11 Museum. They designed the Legacy Museum and did a lot of work with Brian Stevenson and the Equal Justice Initiative in Montgomery, and they are world renowned for their work. We are totally excited about what the world will get to see when they come here. Some of these slides will just give you some perspective of the museum itself. I'd like to show this. It's from the Oklahoma Historical Society to give you a perspective. When people say the all-Black towns of Oklahoma, in the 1880s, actually after 1865, when those slaves of African descent that were owned by the 5 civilized tribes, that's how Blacks actually, by large numbers, came to Oklahoma in 1830, 1834, the signing of the Indian Removal Act that moved the 5 civilized tribes from the southern region of the United States. They made that long Trail of Tears journey to the Oklahoma and Arkansas territory. They brought their African slaves with them. The second largest holder of slaves in the South were the 5 civilized tribes. In 1866, 3 years after the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation, 1863, June the 14th, 1866, the Muskogee Creek Nation released their slaves. And when they did, they received their fair share allotment of land because they could tie their bloodline lineage. They married and intermingled with the tribes. Hence, we have the term the freedmen of the 5 civilized tribes. And that's where this immediate access to wealth came from, is that anywhere from 40 to 200 acres of land was allotted among the freed slaves of the 5 civilized tribes. And when you owned land, if you're anyone who knows history, when you owned land, you had wealth. And all of this land, there was over 3 million acres among the tribes that were split up, and they received their fair share. And so you see on your screen there, over 50 all-Black towns that were, and you can see the ones that are still settled as of today, and some of the most famous there being Langston, where Langston University was. But I'd like to give that strong perspective of how prosperous and how full of in Oklahoma were African Americans and Native Americans. Mind you, the land run was not until 1889. So 30, 40 years of advancement in Oklahoma, mainly were Native American and African American population. In fact, and this is one of those eyebrow-raising moments that I like to share with everyone, many things that we didn't hear in our history books. In 1883, a gentleman by the name of E.P. McCabe, Edwin P. McCabe, he was an African American, an attorney, a settler, a land agent, and he was responsible for trying to get African Americans really civically engaged in the political process in these Black towns. He established and helped them to run for office, run for political office, and he pushed and had strong connection in DC. In 1883, he actually started pushing legislation and speaking and talking with DC to determine if Oklahoma could be an all-Black state. Eyebrow-raising moment, yes. At one point in time, Oklahoma was going to be considered possibly an all-Black state. Remember, statehood for Oklahoma didn't happen until 1907. So in the 1880s, that gives you some perspective of just how well these towns and communities were operating to the extent that maybe we should just make this a Black state. It was an economic boom here. I'm going to share my screen again to give you some insight to what will be shown, some of the different things that will be shown that talks about this history. The Trail of Tears and the Freedmen will be some of the things that you'll see. Black boosterism in the all Black towns. All of these Black towns had a Black newspaper, and towns were so successful that they actually sent pamphlets and articles across the United States, especially for those in the South, that basically said, you know, escape from the dark realities of a post-slavery world in the South, move to Oklahoma. We own land, we have businesses here. We can pursue the American dream in peace without fear of retribution. Come to Oklahoma. And so that was a second component that caused Black Americans to make the arduous journey to Oklahoma. It was called Black boosterism, and it was a very real thing in these all Black towns. You'll see here this educational element. We really, when we talk to donors, we want them to know that this is going to be a very educational, this is a narrative museum. And so we want age groups of schools, high schools, colleges, so that never again in our next 5, 10, 20 years will I, and I'm going to stop here to say, on a weekly basis, I either get an email or I'll get someone come to the office to talk to me, and they'll be in their 30s, some in their 40s, white and Black, that will say, do you know the first time I even ever heard of this? I'm sitting in a college class somewhere outside of Oklahoma, whether it's University of Austin or UCLA or East Coast, and they'll say the same two things, white and Black. They'll say, I'm sitting in a college course in a history class, and the professor starts showing these images and pictures of Greenwood and the race riot, and they say that first of all, they get shocked and embarrassed because the other people in the class look at them and they say, hey, aren't you from Oklahoma? You know, tell us about this. And they have to sit there and say, I have never heard this before. And then the second thing they all say is they get angry. They get angry because why would I have to leave Oklahoma and be a grown adult before I even hear about what took place? Not just the massacre, but that there was this wonderful, rich, entrepreneurial economic boom called Greenwood. Why would I have to grow up and never know that about my own state's history? So our goal is to never have that again. And so education is a very big focus for us, to educate everyone about these things that we didn't hear growing up in Oklahoma. Moving on, I'm gonna move forward because I wanna give time for at the end for some question and some dialogue. We're at 7:45, and just a quick time check. There'll be displays of pioneers of Greenwood. This is E.W. Woods, Ellis Walker Woods, the first principal of Booker T. Washington High School. We will have O.W. Gurley, who's the founder of Black Wall Street, the first to open a business. Interesting to note, a gentleman by the name of Simon Barry. Since this is the Rotary Club, you'll know some of the phenomenal successes. Simon Barry, he had the first jitney service. For those who are old enough and our historians know what a jitney service is, you should see the questions when I go into high schools and ask them, anybody know what a jitney service? And I actually had one young person raise their hand and they said, isn't that like Uber? And I said, yes, I guess you're right. Jitney service was the taxi cab service. And he got so successful with that. He started out with a Model T Ford, cut off the top of the hood, and had the first, and it was so successful, he just started buying more. He started hiring mechanics so that he can keep the vehicles running. He then bought buses and had the first bus service. His bus service was so successful, the city of Tulsa actually eventually bought his bus line from him. And that's how the bus line from the city of Tulsa actually ended up going to North Tulsa. They bought it from Simon Barry. He had his own fleet of planes. He would get hired out by many of the oil barons in Tulsa and fly them, and had trained pilots. At the peak of his economic success, Simon Barry, it is reported that he made as much as $500 a day. That's 1921, $500 a day. I don't know about you, but I would love to even try to get close to making that today. So imagine what that economic wealth did for him in 1921. But we'll have many stories about that success. We're going to have the first ever of its kind in Greenwood Rising, a barbershop hologram experience to tell the history of the community. If you know anything about the Black culture and Black community in America, historically, Black citizens got their information and news and social activity and politics in two places: the Black church and the barber shop or the beauty salon. And so this will allow for these hologram experiences to speak and talk and tell you about the history, even to the point where if a young person sits in the barber chair, the hologram will turn, start talking to you, act as if it's cutting your hair, and then talk to you. This is an example of a young person sitting in a chair, and the hologram might say something like, "Young man, never forget where you come from and who you are." The first of its kind. No other place in the world where a museum or a history experience have a hologram barbershop experience will be unique to Tulsa, Oklahoma. We'll have a timeline that talks about the arc of oppression, this arc of racial violence that took place in the early 1900s. You'll see on the back wall there, Red Summer of 1919. For those who are historians, I challenge you to, after this call, just go do some research on the Red Summer of 1919, when over a dozen racial incidents that occurred across the United States, when citizens, white citizens who were part of the Ku Klux Klan would just go into Black communities and destroy them. 1921 was not the first time that this happened. In Baltimore, in DC, in Chicago, in New York, in Houston, Elaine, Arkansas, one of the most famous. There were about, again, a dozen incidents that took place from the summer of 1919 through the winter. And it all happened in a short period of time, red being a metaphor for the blood that was spilled, the Red Summer of 1919. So that kind of leads up to a 1921 in that Tulsa was a tinderbox, like we had to say, a tinderbox that of this racial animosity, that all it needed was a striking of the match to light this fire. And that lighting of the match was the elevator incident between Dick Rowland, 19-year-old Black boy, shoe shine boy that went to the Drexler building, the only place downtown that had what they refer to as colored restrooms on the 3rd floor, and the elevator operator, 17-year-old Sarah Page. The elevator that he got on shifted, it jerked, something happened. He, to catch himself from falling, reaches out and grabs her arm. When he does that, she screams. When it settles on the floor, the doors open and he runs away. The merchant from across the street comes across to hear, because he heard the screams, and it is reported in the paper, the Tulsa Tribune, that afternoon, nab Negro for attacking white girl in elevator. That newspaper is pretty much seen as the responsible agent that caused this animosity to spill over. If you were a person of the Ku Klux Klan and you saw this community of prospering African Americans and what was going on after 1919 in white communities, after World War I, white soldiers were returning and finding it hard to find work, difficult to find jobs. And just imagine the animosity. If you have a mindset that one group of people are inferior to you and you are superior over them, and you're having a tough time living, but you can look across the Frisco Railroad tracks and see people driving nice cars, wearing neat coats, having prospering businesses and doing well. It caused this animosity to fester, just like it did in 1919. And so when you see this paper put out this false narrative that this Black boy tried to rape this girl in broad daylight in downtown Tulsa, it basically did its damage. It did what it was supposed to do. It rallied a mob of about 1,000 citizens to come to the courthouse to possibly try to lynch Dick Rowland. He was arrested, by the way, and brought to the courthouse. And a group of Black citizens, about 36 Black soldiers who were who had served in World War I. They were disciplined. They were not afraid. They had their own guns, their own munitions. They decided to go downtown to stand guard to keep Dick Rowland from being lynched. And it says about 10:30, a gentleman by the name of Mr. McQueen went up to one of the black soldiers to disarm him. And in the wrestle over that gun, the gun discharged, and more than one witness reported, quote, "all hell broke loose." At that point, the black citizens retreated to Greenwood. The Tulsa Police Department deputized many of the white members, the mob that was there. It increased from about 1,000 to 1,500. They got guns, they got ammunitions, and around 1:30 in the morning, they began to march into Greenwood. They entered in about Elgin and Archer, and they began to literally destroy Greenwood. That lasted for 18 hours. Martial law was declared at 11:30 on June the 1st. And black citizens were rounded up and interned. They were placed in internment camps in the Brady Theater, at the and also at the fairgrounds at that time. And during that time, when the black citizens were interned, that's when a lot of the looting and remaining destruction. Basically, Greenwood was left defenseless, and that's when many went in, went house to house, taking their items, taking all the items that was left in the homes, and they burned the rest of Greenwood down in the few days after that. So the rebuilding, we get to the rebuilding. We don't just focus on that. We talk about the resilience of this community, that within 5 years, by 1926, 80 to 90% of Greenwood was rebuilt. And keep in mind, they were not able to claim insurance claims. They were not honored because it was labeled a Tulsa race riot, and I'll get to that in a moment, the labeling of Tulsa race riot and what it did legally, and then the focus, here in the last couple of years to massacre. But it was rebuilt, and rebuilt bigger and better than what it was in 1921. In fact, the peak of all the economic activity of Greenwood took place in 1943. That's when you had over 1,200 black-owned homes, over 200 black businesses, 3 hospitals, 7 grocery stores, the list goes on and on. So they rebuilt Greenwood, which we never had really been told about in our history books. And again, it was built bigger and better than it was in 1921. People think that time stood still after 1921, but no, this resilient community rebuilt itself. And so that leads to, well, then what happened? Why, what happened? If it was so wonderful, how why do we have just a couple of buildings left today? And we talk about in the museum 3 things: the impact of integration and what it did that allowed for black citizens to move out of the community and spend their dollars elsewhere, which took that money out of the black community. Number 2, the death knell to Greenwood, and that is the building of the I-244 highway. If some of you have been watching the news, you'll notice on Monday, the announcement of the Pathway to Hope. That Pathway to Hope is going to be this symbolism of rejoining the district. So many black homes and businesses that were removed because of eminent domain, and that highway went right through the heart of Greenwood, which literally destroyed it. And that happened to many communities, communities of color all over the United States in the 60s and the 70s. And then the final thing is education and the push for education from African-American parents in the 60s and 70s and 80s, telling their children, go be successful. Don't live this hard life that I've lived. Go get an education, become a doctor, lawyer, business owner. And they did by the thousands. They left Oklahoma, they became successful, they became educated, and they never came back home. So many of these mom and pop businesses had no one to pass their business down to. So when they died, many of their businesses died out with them. All of this history leads to the journey to reconciliation. This will be an amphitheater style space room where individuals can actually sit and have these difficult discussions around race. That's what this leads to, a place for us as citizens to sit down and have these difficult discussions. I've used this before, and I've said, if Greenwood Rising was here today, the number of conversations, the number of community programs that we would have hosted to talk about how does a community deal with an Ahmaud Arbery shooting, a black man running through a neighborhood and gets murdered. How does the community deal with the aftermath of George Floyd and all that's fallen out from that? How does a community like Tulsa still reeling and still trying to heal over the shooting of Terrence Crutcher and these racially charged incidents? How do we deal with the relationship between police authority and communities of color and where those tensions lie? We need a place to have these conversations. We can change as many laws, as many policies, as many ordinances, but until I change your heart and your mind and have you look at me and me look at you in a different way and have a different perspective about that person, about who they are, about where they come from. When I change your heart and how you feel about me, I'll change your perspective and we can begin that path to journey to reconciliation. So we're really excited about having that opportunity to have this room. So this pretty much is it. This is the Pathway to Hope, our second major project that we'll be doing. We've had a tremendous amount of support. This is our overall fundraising campaign. We're raising $30 million. We've so far received about $24 million in pledges from the various aspects of our community. This is how many of our organizations and corporations have stepped up in a major way to contribute to Greenwood Rising and the building of this facility. And as far as donors, we're being very, very intentional when it comes to our donor relations. We are going to have inside Greenwood Rising this larger than life donor wall. We want everyone to know that this was a community effort. It wasn't just people with $1 million and $2 million. We're going to have the name of a person that gives $100 or the person or community that gave $1 million. Your name will go on that wall. Right now, we're having about 2,000 people overall that have given to the Greenwood Rising. And we want, again, when people come from all over the world, the city, the state, we want people to see how much of the community. It's not about your logo or your company logo, but it's about where did you stand on the right side of history when Greenwood Rising was being built? And we want all those names to be displayed. I'd like to share this as a true story. A group of us actually went to Montgomery, Alabama, because Montgomery has much of what we're trying to do, creating this area of cultural tourism. They have the Dexter King Avenue Baptist Church, which is now a museum where Martin Luther King first gave his pastorate. They have the Rosa Parks Museum. They have the Legacy Museum, the Center for Legacy, for the Legacy Center for Peace and Justice. All of these items, and they become the economic driver because of the demand for people that want to come and hear this history. So we traveled there in 2000 and early 19, about 35 of us. While we were there, we were introduced to an elderly white lady from Montgomery, wanted to know why this group of Tulsans were here. We shared with her our mission, the Centennial Commission, what we were building. That next month, and every month since then, she has been sending us a check for $15. Every single month, sending a check because she sees the value of what we're doing in this community effort. So it's actually wonderful to see that check come in every month for $15. So we were just excited about how the community has embraced. It hasn't been always a kumbaya moment. We had to establish trust. We had to establish trust among not only North Tulsa citizens, but among white citizens as well. The number of conversations I've had one-on-one and even in small groups. What are you all trying to do? And why are you dragging us back through these emotions? And you know, is this just a big handout for Black citizens again? And once they hear our focus, once people hear our mission, once people see what we're trying to do and just educate and actually take us on this journey to reconciliation, there's not been one person that has sat back and said, you know what? This is totally far beyond what I ever thought it would be. How can I help? How can I be a part of it? And I'll finish with this, again, true story. You know, the Tulsa mass graves and the investigation, it's not us, we're affiliated, we support that, but that is actually under the city of Tulsa, but I get affiliated with that so much. Last fall, when the city first announced the Tulsa mass graves and the consternation from some in the community, why are we doing this? I actually am an avid bowler. On Monday nights, for the last 5 or 6 years, I've been on a bowling team on Sheridan Lanes. And I say this with love and admiration all the time. If you ever want to see a great cross mix of people who are making America great again, folks, go to a bowling alley. And there are white folks and black folks, and we join. We may have different ideological differences, but when you see us out there in that bowling alley and laughing and talking and the camaraderie, I love it. But there was a gentleman, he's actually passed COVID. He actually passed from COVID about a month and a half ago, but his name was Mr. Bodine, 70 plus years old, Tulsa native. And he came up to me one Monday night last fall, and he said, Phil, what are you all doing? And I said, you know, what's wrong? And he was upset. And he said, you all just keep dragging our emotions through the mud. Every time we try to get over this, you guys do something else. And now you're digging up bodies. Why can't you just leave well enough alone? And I just let him go. I let him go on. And when he got done, I said, Mr. Bodine, can I ask you a question? And he said, yes. And I said, Mr. Bodine, if your grandmother told you all your life that some big incident happened in Tulsa and your grandfather left the house to go help his neighbors and he never came back, and all you've been told all your life is that this terrible thing happened, hundreds of people were killed, and your grandmother has no idea what happened to him. All she knows is that he left, he never came back. You've never had a memorial service. You don't have a grave marker. You don't have a death certificate. All you know is that he's gone. All you can do is assume that maybe he was caught up in that moment. And 99 years later, someone comes to you and says, hey, I think I know what happened to your grandfather. In fact, I think I know where he might be buried. I said, do you think you and your family might want to know that? And you could see the tears well up in his eyes. And he looked at me and said, Philip, I've never thought about it like that. The next Monday after that, and every Monday for the next 5 or 6 weeks, he would come up and say, Phil, any new things about the bodies? Have they found anything? Have they found anything? It was amazing, the power of a conversation to change someone's perspective on a situation. That's what Greenwood Rising and our Journey to Reconciliation Room is going to do. Allow people to sit down and have conversations. Thank you for your time. I know I've gone over, and thank you for hanging in there with me, but I wanted to share that with you. And if you have any questions, please let me know, or please chime in or speak up, and we can have a little dialogue if there's still time.
Megan is going to field some of the questions. Phil.
Yeah, I think the biggest one, I think you've answered some of them already, but the biggest, a lot of people are asking, how can they donate? Like, where should they go? They have a website, a link. How can they donate?
Yes, if you go to tulsa2021.org, that's tulsa2021.org, you will see the website, you will see all the information, calendar of events, images, everything. It's a very vibrant website. There's a button called where you can donate. And when you click on that, it will immediately take you to the Tulsa Community Foundation. If you're aware, the TCF Foundation does this work, and they are the repository 501c3 of all the donations and the funds. We actually have a Centennial Commission fund under their management. They've raised the money and helped, bring the money together for the building of the gathering place. So they partner with us to say, let us handle this for you. This is what we do. So just know that you can make a donation of any amount. And there's actually a place where you can put your name, or if you want to make a donation in the name of someone, and that name will go onto the donor wall. Tulsa2021.org.
Great.
Okay. Thank you. I can't thank you enough, Phil. It's been a very sobering but a very hopeful presentation. And most of us in the chat room, we never heard about it going to high school. I never heard about it in college. And to hear the detail that you've expressed in this presentation is, well, it almost makes you cry. It does make you cry. It's very, very good. And I appreciate that so much. To all of our speakers this year during COVID, we can't very well hand you a coffee cup, but we are going to make a donation to our Rotary Foundation for our polio campaign. So donation will be made in your name. And we thank you very, very much for coming and sharing all this with us. I can't wait to see the museum when it's done. That's going to be a very, very exciting venture.
And thank you. Can I say one more thing? I want to acknowledge Don. Don made an excellent point and I just want to expound upon that. The Healy Foundation, Maggie Healy-Yard has become a very, very close friend of mine. She's actually one of our core leaders of the Centennial Commission. And I'm actually in the offices. The Healy Foundation office, they let me office here. I get to sit right across the street. I can look out the window right now and see the construction taking place. But the Healy Foundation actually stopped their construction of 21 North Greenwood, moved their project further south so that we can have the land on the corner of Greenwood Orchard to build Greenwood Rising. So thank you, Don, for putting that in the comment chat. Healy Foundation has been a phenomenal gift to us, which also explains as well, or coincides with, we're also in the Greenwood Rising, I failed to mention this, we're also going to talk about those white citizens and groups and churches that helped those. Not everyone, I tell students, there were about 90,000 people that living in Tulsa at that time. And I say, not every white person in Tulsa was trying to kill black people. It was about 1,500. I said, but you had we're going to have actually minutes and notes from the Holy Cathedral Catholic Church downtown, First United Methodist Church, First Presbyterian Church, and just recently I found out that we'll have minutes from the First Baptist Church. Those were churches that actually hid black citizens in their basements, fed them, clothed them, protected them during that time. So we want to share the full aspect of what happened during that history as well. So again, thank you for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it very, very much.
Thank you.
And on that note, I will leave with my comment that I usually do. This is, whoops, wrong one. Hold on. This is from John Wooden. Be more concerned with your character than your reputation, because your character is what you really are, while your reputation is merely what others think you are. So on that note, please let me know if you're going to attend the Glassblowing Studio in-person event next Wednesday at 9 o'clock. And if I don't see you there, I'll see you the following Wednesday. Thank you all for joining. Have a great week.
Bye-bye.